Ohio hockey had two big wins against Eastern Michigan this last week. The football team had a rough loss against Minnesota, while the volleyball team beat both Bowling Green and Miami.
Well, I'm going to have to stop you right there, John. You've just been flagged with the Leia show, but don't worry, folks. We'll have all this and more right here on Ohio Sports Zone.
Welcome back to Ohio Sports, and I'm Alex Utano, joined by John Kosas. And John, the soccer team isn't exactly off to the start it wanted after the recent games. They are 3-6. They are right now 1-1 in the MAC, with that loss coming most recently to Akron after a three-game winning streak that really bounced back nice after a 5-game losing streak for this soccer team. But the loss to Akron obviously hurts that momentum.
And Akron is a great team, Alex. You really don't expect Ohio to go out there and get a win, but they were tied through 87 minutes in a scoreless stand. The goalie, Taylor Smith, has been absolutely outstanding for Ohio since she took over for the team to start off that 3-game win streak. She has had 22 shots against her, and in that time, she has only allowed 3 total goals. She's definitely a step up from what we have seen on this Ohio goalie part for this entire season. Now, on the other end, you're looking at the offense, which is just struggling to score right now. The team leader only has 3 goals. That's Stephanie Rowland. She has 13 shots on goal on the season. She has 0 assists. She's really not passing the ball very well, trying to distribute it to the other strikers. And the lack of passing is probably what's going to be attributed to the lack of goals scored by this Ohio team.
As you said, Stephanie Rowland with 3 goals on the year, including the game winner against Buffalo. But as you said, this offense is struggling. They only had 2 goals in that span to start the season in that 5-game losing streak, and only recently 6 of the 8 goals that they have this season have come in their recent success with the 3-game win streak. But outside of that, the soccer team has been off to a rocky start. However, their upcoming opponents, NIU and Western Michigan, are both beatable teams. You see NIU with a 2-7 record and Western Michigan with a 5-2 record. And while this could be a sleeper game for NIU to upset Ohio, really, based on the records, these are 2 winnable games for this Bobcats team.
Oh, for sure. And Ohio looked very good against Robert Morris, Xavier, and Buffalo. And to be completely honest, I did not see Ohio beating Xavier or Buffalo because both of them looked to have very strong starts to the season. But when you're looking at how well they played there and how well they played against Akron, I really think that this team can do well in MAC play. Once again, there were 2 goals scored by Akron in the last 3 minutes of regulation. Sarah Civic had a goal in the 87th minute, and then again in the 89th minute, Ariadna Ramos ended up scoring a goal. And Ohio has been outshot by opponents 140-99 this season. That's the big statistic right there. If this Ohio team can pressure other opponents, if they can get shots on net, then I think this Ohio team can do very well, especially with the great play from the goaltender, Taylor Smith.
Well, we wish them good luck moving forward, but now on to football, where a 27-24 loss to Minnesota is just marred by controversy. As the game was winding down, Minnesota took the lead with 30 seconds left. Daz Patterson responded with a 56-yard kick return, and after a couple botched plays by the offense, they set up Yazdani for a 53-yard field goal. Now, if you look at the stats for Yazdani, he hasn't had particular success in this range. His career long is 49, and that was his first year on the team. The next year, he followed that up with a 46-yard field goal, and he did make one that game, which was 41, so the possibility of him making that is there. He is 0 for 1 from 50-plus yards, but That was a makeable kick for him, and though the stats aren't on his side, you got to wonder what would have happened had Ohio not been called for that delay of game penalty, which has us really scratching our heads.
Like you said, Alex, Josiah Yazdani does not have a field goal of 50-plus yards in his career. But you have to give Ohio the chance to tie the ball game at that point. I think that delay of game call was, for lack of a better word, just utter bogus. Now, this Ohio team has thrived off of great defense this year. In fact, they lead the NCAA in fumble recoveries with 6. Nathan Carpenter, the 6th-year senior safety for Ohio, has 3 fumble recoveries this season. He's been looking very good on the defensive end. He's been able to turn over the ball. He even has an interception, a big interception that sealed the deal against Marshall. That type of veteran leadership is really what you look forward to from this team, especially if they want to do well in MAC play, and it all starts this weekend against Akron.
As you said, the Bobcats will take on Akron to start up MAC play. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we have Ohio volleyball.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Hello and welcome back to Ohio Sports Zone. I'm John Kostas alongside Alex Utano, and we have our inside expert on the volleyball team, Scott McDonald. Scott, this volleyball team has been excellent this entire season. They're 12-3 and currently 2-0 in the MAC. This Ohio volleyball team has only dropped 1 set while in the MAC, beating Bowling Green 3-0 in Miami 3-1. What's been the key to their success early on in matches?
Well, the first thing that they have been doing so well is they've been jumping on teams. They do not let them come back. They do sometimes fail to close the deal in the 4th and 5th set. It takes them a little bit longer, but they do jump off to an early and hot start, basically killing the hopes and dreams of the other team. So it's important, especially with the senior leadership that they have, that they continue this play and hopefully do well in the rest of the bulk of the season.
Well, as you were saying, definitely a hot start is the key to this volleyball team. In the set so far, the first set they have a 10-5 record of taking those, 11-4 in the second and third, 7-1 in the fourth, but a dismal 1-2 in the fifth. Now, do you think there's any reason why the Bobcats so far this season haven't been able to win a majority of those games? Yes, there's only 3, so there's not a whole lot to base that off of, but you got to wonder what happened so far in the fifth, as this team has looked really stellar so far.
Oh, absolutely. Once you look at the numbers, since that loss against Louisville, they have reeled off 5 straight wins by a combined set total of 15-4. Now that's outstanding play from everybody on the team, the liberos, the outside blockers, and middle blockers, and everybody else. So it does rely heavily on the senior leadership to help get the younger players more involved, to help them kind of gain the experience they need.
Scott, this Ohio team has been winning a lot in the third set, as Alex has mentioned. They have swept opponents 6 times compared to just being swept once, and that was against a ranked foe. They have won 5 times in the fourth set compared to 0 from opposing teams, and as I was pointing out, they are 1-2 in matches that go through all 5 sets. A lot of this team is based off of young leadership. You talk about Jamie Kosiorek, who has 186 kills on the season. She has 3.32 kills per set and leads the team. Do you think that the losses later on just come from the youth of this team and that will correct itself throughout MAC play?
Well, we certainly hope so. We hope as the season goes on, that they develop the more experience, that they develop the camaraderie with the other players. Now, Jamie Kosta-Warwick is a sophomore, and alongside of her is Allie Lake, who's the other sophomore, the middle blocker, who is 5th on team in points with 103 and 5th on team with kills with 78. So you think with more games being played, they gain that valuable experience and really just keep the wheels turning with this offense.
Now, as John said earlier, the Ohio Bobcats volleyball team is right now 2-0 in the MAC, beating Bowling Green 3-0 and Miami 3-1. Now, with MAC play the rest of the schedule and they got all their hard games out of the way, how do you think they're just going to be able to maintain this winning tradition in the MAC?
Well, it's easy. You just keep playing the way you're playing. They've been dominant so far in MAC play. They've won 26 regular season matches. That's outstanding. Of course, their hardest game the rest of this year is October 30th against Miami in Oxford. Now that's going to be a very tough game because Miami, although they did just beat them last weekend, is probably the second toughest team in the MAC. So we hope that they do not get complacent with all the wins, and we want to keep the momentum going towards MAC tournament play and hopefully into the NCAA tournament.
Scott, the only way for a team to be as successful as this volleyball team is if they have a lot of great players, a lot of specialists. You don't have just one great part of a volleyball team like you would a football team, maybe having a strong passing game. A name that doesn't get talked about a lot is Karen Bull. Karen has 1.27 blocks per set, and that's amongst the league leaders in the MAC. What does it mean to have someone that's such a great defensive player?
Oh, it means a ton. I mean, you have that person that you can really rely on to step up every time and provide those blocks, that momentum shift. But alongside her, she's not the only one. Alongside her, you have junior Mallory Solis, senior Abby Gilliland, and Meredith Ashey. And with those combined players, that's 5 MAC East Player of the Week awards just between those. They have done an impressive job, and they've really developed a foundation for this OU team.
Well, Scott, one more question before we go to commercial break. Who is your MVP so far in the volleyball team?
The MVP, it has to go to Abby Gilliland. She's won the MAC East Player of the Week, both offense and defensively this week. She is the person that helps set up the assists. She keeps the offense rolling. She does basically everything that you ask of her and more. So she's a person that you need to look for as the season goes on to make more big plays and to come up big during MAC tournament play.
The Ohio volleyball team's 5-game winning streak will continue to get tested with MAC play this year. Don't go anywhere, because after this commercial break, we are going to talk about more success, and that's in the Ohio hockey team.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I didn't see you there. Ever wonder what really happens in the world? Ever wonder what the media is keeping from you? Well, look no further than AVW's News Time for all your answers. Ohio University's most reliable source of unreliable news. All news, all the time, none of the facts. All made possible by AVW Productions. You could trust us. We're professionals.
Hello and welcome back to Ohio Sports Zone. I'm John Kostis alongside Alex Utano. Alex, the Ohio hockey team has been on a roll thus far this season. They're 4-0-0 after 4 contests against John Carroll and Eastern Michigan, and the games haven't even been close thus far this year. Ohio has outscored teams 33-2. What exactly is the key to this success?
Oh, it's all up and down the roster. I mean, you look at the goaltending, yeah, they haven't been tested, but they've been making the saves that they need to make. There's a reason why they've only let up 2 goals, but you also got to credit the defense. You got new guys like Grant Hazel, Alex Vasquez, Tom Picorni, all doing a great job in their first couple games in the green and white sweaters. And the offense, my goodness, have they been on fire. 2 9-goal games and 11-goal game. The only time they didn't go over 5 goals was a close 4-0 contest to Eastern Michigan, where Eastern Michigan's physicality really held that score close. But once they got under their skin the next game, multiple penalties were taken, and the power play really went to work. This offense has been fantastic, and you can also credit 2 youngsters with this success, and that is Matt Rudin and Brian Lubin, 2 very similar names. Matt Rudin in his first year, 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points to lead the Bobcats in his first 5 games as a Bobcat. Then Brian Lubin, who has played 4 games, has 3 goals, 4 assists so far for this Bobcats team. It's not very often that you see players that are not named Joe Breslin, Michael Harris, or Patrick Spelsey being the top 2 point contenders, but they have found a way so far.
You mentioned that first line being as successful as they have been, not only in the ACHA play, but really all throughout. And this year they're going to see some NCAA play. But again, 2 young guys, 2 freshmen come in, and a lot of freshman defenders came in and surprised a lot of people early on with their size. But I think these 2 guys, Lubin and Rudin, have surprised with their ability to first get the puck in the back of the net, and secondly, they've been extremely physical. They've been really upping the pressure on the forecheck, and that makes the job a lot easier for those big new defenders. Jake Fiala is one of the most veteran players that you have on the defensive line, and this guy's a sophomore.
Well, he doesn't look like a sophomore. He's playing with the attitude and the discipline of a senior, but discipline was not in effect really in that second half of that Eastern Michigan game. In a span of 3 minutes, about the 16-minute mark to the 13-minute mark, there are 3 5-minute major penalties, 7 penalties on Eastern Michigan, 6 on OU, 6 10-minute game misconducts, and in a total, 88 penalty minutes overall in that span of time. Now, Coach Hogan said he wasn't too disappointed with all that happened. He just says sometimes you get drawn into that physical play, but overall he was happy with the way that the Bobcats responded more often than not the antics of Eastern Michigan, but physical play was definitely a big part of that too. As you said earlier, Eastern Michigan really got the body going, and that's what made that 4-0 game so close. But Ohio just needs to make sure they can stay out of the box, because last year that was a big problem.
Yeah, both teams came out with an attitude in that game. When you saw Eastern Michigan, they really wanted to prove that that 4-0 loss the night before on Friday night was not something that was going to be repeated. And it was actually a very close game until after a lot of 3-on-3 hockey ended up giving Ohio a big advantage. You don't hear about 3-on-3 hockey too much, although you're hearing about it in preseason overtime hockey in the NHL. But in the ACHA, it's more of a rarity. Something that's been great once again for the Ohio hockey team, because I sound like a broken record over these past couple of years talking about the solid goaltender play. Aaron Alcama's played 2 games this season, and he has 2 shutouts to go along with 14 total saves. Ryan Helshen's been no slouch either. Through his 2 games, he has allowed 2 goals against through 22 shots and 20 saves. That's a 90.9 save percentage. These goalies seem unstoppable, and I know the shot totals aren't high, but a lot of times it's harder to stop a bunch of shots that are widely spread out than 2 or 3 right in a row if they're weak shots and wristers.
Well, there's never a bad time to be bored as a goalie, I suppose, but I was talking to Aaron Alcama after that stellar 4-save shutout that he had against Eastern Michigan, and he said that's the closest he's ever been to becoming bored while on the ice, and it really speaks to the team in front of him that's going to have to keep up this fantastic play heading into this game against West Virginia. That's going to be a good one, because West Virginia right now is 4-3. They were swept by Alabama to start off the season, but have rebounded nicely with wins of 4 of their last 5, and they have 2 freshmen that have played outstanding. That is J.P. Sawyer and Riley Horvath, both of which have 4 goals and 5 assists on the season. They have a bit of a goaltending carousel, no number 1 starter so far, but West Virginia historically has been one of the more physical teams, just like Eastern Michigan, so they're going to have to take that same game plan that got them 2 victories this weekend into this upcoming Friday.
Yeah, Alex. 4 goalies through 7 games sounds like more of a problem than something that's good to have, but this West Virginia team, especially those 2 youngsters, have the advantage of having Tyler Conaway on the squad. Conaway has 7 assists already this year. He's been distributing the puck well, and I think he's a big X factor to look out for this weekend.
Definitely, and we're going to go to a quick commercial break, but when we come back, a special Reading Day segment just for you.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Toucan Sam.
What's it take to get some hunky construction equipment up in here, huh?
I hope you're joking.
I think we need to follow the advice of Jesus and get down, girl. Go ahead, get down.
Please state your name and the role you're auditioning for.
Hi, my name is Christopher Walken.
What if it is Loch Ness Monster?
I mean, I got some shopping to do at Whole Foods, but I'll join in.
But to my captain.
I'm right then. I knew I was right.
Welcome back to Ohio Sports. I'm Alex Chitano, joined once again by John Kosis, and we have a very special segment for you to celebrate Reading Day tomorrow. And we read into some of our Ohio sports teams and we fished out some fun facts about a couple of them. So let's get started. When you look at Joe Breslin, he's one of the more successful players on this hockey team, but did you read into that he is only 5 goals away from reaching 40 on his career? Last season, Joe Breslin really made a name for himself, second in the team in goals with 15, led the team in assists with 21 with 36 points. This year he has 3 goals already, and he's looking to get more. Now, it's surprising after this past weekend against a team that didn't even get 10 wins last year that he wasn't able to record a goal. He only got 1 assist in those 2 games, so he's going to have to be able to adapt to one of those more physical teams. And as I said earlier in the show, West Virginia, there we go, is going to be one physical team and definitely one that's going to keep an eye on Joe Breslin throughout the game. But if Joe Breslin can get back to the front of the net, really cause some chaos, get some good deflection goals, I see no problem with him reaching 40 within the next couple weeks.
Alex Breslin is a big forward, and he's part of one of the best lines in the ACHA. He'll have his chances for sure as the season goes on. Staying with reading into this Ohio hockey team, I was reading into them, and they're outscoring opponents 33-2 this season. It's absolutely mind-boggling to think that first, the defensive play has been good enough to limit opponents to just 38 shots on the season, but also to think about how well all these forwards are playing together. We've talked about this first line enough over the past 2 seasons with Spellacy, Breslin, and Harris. But the second line is working in very well as well this year, and the reason why is because of 2 freshmen. You have Rudin and you have Lupin, who we already mentioned, who have scored both a combined total of 17 points. That's great contribution coming from 2 guys who are trying to replace a very big senior class that was a part of a lot of success in this Ohio program's history.
One more fact about the hockey team: since Coach Hogan took over as the team's head coach, they are 22-0 at home. When he is behind the bench, they are 2-6 without him, and that span of weekends came when he led his boys, Michael Harris, Joe Breslin, and Tyler Benson, over to play with Team USA for the World University Games. But so a little more about this home win streak. Yes, 22-0 includes the 4 games that have started this year, and they've also not lost at home to a non-CSCHL opponent, even including that span where they lost 6 home games in the span of 8 games when he was gone.
I don't think there's a better way to spell dominance. But while we're trying to read about different teams, let's talk a little bit about the Ohio football team. The Ohio football team has had the same head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator now for 10 consecutive seasons. That makes them the only team in the FBS to have that combination. Consistency has been the key to success for Ohio University and Frank Solich. During his tenure, Ohio University is 74-56. This was a program that before Frank Solich got involved was in a lot of trouble. They hadn't seen a bowl game since the 1970s. We're talking about 2004, 2005. Since the 1970s, they had not seen a bowl game. It's great to see that these guys are already halfway to qualifying for a bowl game this season, and they're facing a Akron team that is below average in the MAC. They're 3-1 and just 3 games away once again from qualifying for a bowl.
Well, you talk about the success since the non-success since the 70s, and Frank Solich took over, and then we all remember, I guess, so far, the height of that success when the Bobcats were able to defeat Penn State. And then at one point during the 2012-2013 season, they were ranked. Believe it or not, for those of you new to Ohio University, yes, the Bobcats were ranked 23rd in the nation until they walked into Oxford. Tyler Tettleton forgot how many timeouts he had, got sacked, and, well, I just don't like to remember it. And I know my good friend Drew Traumer is probably watching, so I'm sorry to bring up this bad memory, but ever since that loss, the Bobcats are 18-16 in football play. They are 1-1 in bowl games. They did set numerous Auto Care Bowl records in the dynamic 45-14 victory over University of Louisiana Monroe. But then in Tyler Tettleton's last game as a Bobcat, they fell to East Carolina in the Beef O'Brady Bowl 37-20, and Tyler Tettleton looked less than stellar. 21 for 40, 1 touchdown to 3 interceptions, and only 14 rushing yards as the senior quarterback ran off to the sunset.
Ohio University is trying to get back to a bowl game for the first time since the Tyler Tettleton era, as it's been crowned by so many reporters across not only Akron and Ohio, but really across the United States. Another fact that I was reading up on about Frank Solich, he has 75 victories in the MAC. He is 2 away from 3rd all-time in MAC wins. And that means he could get it this year. If Ohio becomes bowl eligible, Frank Solich will be sitting in sole possession of 3rd place all-time on the MAC wins leaderboard for head coaches.
Well, that is absolutely outstanding, but we have one more fact that we really read into, and it's a controversial duel not in sports, but right here in the broadcast. And I'm going to go ahead and read into the fact that Zach Farbman, our very own producer, is better at football than Drew Traumer. That's right, Drew. Zach Farbman can throw the deep ball, and usually the interceptions don't outweigh the touchdowns, and he doesn't go around running that he won the game despite throwing 5 interceptions. And I know that might be a little bit exaggerated, but we got to get with the old times. Out with the old, in with the new. Zach's the greatest. That's all the time we have for Ohio Sports Zone. For John Kosis, I'm Alex Utano. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you next week.